Questions of Doom.
Hello, welcome back to another Questions of Doom. In this series, I attempt to answer questions which you send my way using the archaeosoup@gmail.com email address as displayed on the channel homepage, but also as will be appearing at the end of this video. In answering these questions via video, I hope that the answer will be useful to not just the person asking the question, but also all you fine people out there in YouTube land who may be wondering exactly the same thing. So today's question comes from Charles W. Now I'm calling you Charles W, Charles, because there's already been a Charles who has asked a question, so I figured I would differentiate, just in case the other Charles came for blood. So Charles W, you asked me this fairly recently, and it's been a little bit of a while getting back, so it's about time, I guess. I just watched your video, Complications in Llangollen, and that was an archaeoscoop examining a monument which is older than previously thought. You made a remark towards the end that Wales was a part of the world that is sometimes understudied. My question is, what parts of the world are considered particularly sexy by archaeologists? Brackets, I would guess Egypt would be one such place. Close brackets. And what implications does this have? Does this actually distort our understanding of the past and cultures in antiquity? Charles W. Well, Mr. W, you are absolutely right. There are certainly parts of the world and time periods which are more attractive, I suppose, than others. Now, whether or not archaeologists will automatically think that these are more sexy or less sexy is certainly up for debate. If I was to start saying, well, you know, I don't know, the Mesolithic of the Orkneys, you know, some people think it's great, other people don't, then I'm sure people will get very, very up in arms. But it definitely has an impact. Now, there are two ways of measuring this, I guess. One of them, most recently, is actually a website that I'm involved with called the Heritage Daily website, as it were. Well, it's not called the Heritage Daily website, it's called Heritage Daily. In fact, you may even be watching this video via that fine website. Now, I know from feedback from the person who runs it that any story which features on that website, which is to do with Aztecs, Mayans, Rome, Egypt, occasionally possibly some other places, always gets more hits, more views than stories about more conventional or more prosaic archaeology, as it were. So yeah, there are definitely big name hitters out there. Another way of doing it, and I kid you not, I was actually taught this in a lecture at uni, was to do the coffee table test. Now, just one moment. Aha, found it. This would be a coffee table publication. It's about the Aztec and the Maya, and it's wonderfully accessible. It's full of nice big pictures, which I love books with big pictures. And also, they said you have to do the drop test. So you have to drop the book, and if it makes a big boom, then it's more academic. If it makes less of a boom, then it's less academic. So that was like a middling boom. Let's see. How about this one? The Northern World. Now this is likely to make a slightly bigger boom. We'll just test this one out. See? Slight difference in the quality of the boom. Now I won't continue to do that because I do have people living downstairs. However, that was quite literally one of the tests which was advocated. In short, some books are marketed at people because they're going to be more interesting to people. And these books like the Aztec and the Maya are far more accessible, and because they're far more easily readable, far more attractive, and actually, frankly, they're sold in places where people go all the time. Here in the UK, we have a few shops. For example, there's the Book Warehouse, I believe, and there's also something called the works, where you can buy books like Aztec Maya, books on Egypt, books on astronomy, actually, books on famous murder cases, and they're all actually plonked together on a bookshelf, and therefore they become instantly more accessible. The bigger the pictures, the more likely they are to be sold. This is not because people are stupid and can't read, but it's because they're just more attractive. This is the reason why I bought this, actually, was because I don't really know all that much about Aztec and Maya, but I want to. And I figured, well, the best way for me to learn, certainly, is to have nice, big images, you see? So that's another way of looking at it, is to say, what is it that's actually being made accessible to the public? I think you'd find it very hard to find a coffee table, as it were, publication about Peterborough ware. You know, a certain type of pottery found in a very particular part of the world in the UK. Because that's far more of an academic subject, something which only certain people get very excited about, you know, get very flustered when they see this stuff, you know. So yes, there certainly are areas which are more sexy, areas which, as a result, are sold more, and therefore actually are more likely to garner more interest. Now this actually has a curious sort of feedback, and that is that because these areas are sort of pushed on people, they become better known. So is that why they become more sexy, as it were? Sexy. For example, Egypt actually is, it has a whole realm to itself, Egyptology. There's an Egyptology department in the University of Liverpool, which is absolutely excellent. It's got a great reputation, and it's pretty much almost separate from archaeology in that respect. But this is because it's very attractive, it's very well known, but also it has other connotations and political history, in as much as it's linked in with colonial ambitions. It's linked in with to a certain extent, at one point, keeping tabs on what the French were doing actually down there. So it's got all these other things which actually have made Egyptology the big, massive mammoth that it is. Now, I'm going to tag on the end here a little bit, and that is to say that you're right. This does affect how people, or what people are aware of in the past. But in some ways, actually, it can also have an ironic effect, a completely inverse effect. For me, ancient Egypt is a mystery. Now, this is because I've deliberately kept it as such. I know the basics, but I don't. Whenever I get a chance to go to Egypt, I want to enjoy the romance of it, and whether that be right or wrong, I really do. So therefore, I've deliberately not looked into every single debate and discussion and latest thought on everything in Egypt, because I want it to be a bit of a chocolate box for me, you know, a bit of an indulgence. So I suppose that's the other way of thinking about it, is that perhaps these sexy topics actually become so romanticised that actually some professionals, myself included, would rather have that sense of wonderment. Because after all, archaeology is pretty much what I think about all the time. And for me, it's going to be wonderful to be able to go to Egypt and enjoy, almost tongue-in-cheek, enjoy the pyramids. And but at the same time, obviously, I will be learning stuff, and I do take an interest in ancient Egypt. But I just don't want to be caught up in this person's argument against that and this. I want to enjoy it for what it is, the tactile, the smells, the sights, the sounds, rather than, I suppose, what people say about it. So that's yet another perspective on this sexy issue, I guess. Now, I think I've covered most of the things I wanted to say there, Mr. W, in as much as, yes, completely, you're right. There are periods which are more sexy, which are more attractive. There are periods which are pushed on people more, and therefore it affects what people think about the past and how people view their past. And it's certainly, I think, a responsible archaeologist's job to try and level the playing field a little bit. And that's hopefully what I try and do here at ArchaeoSoup, is talk about human history, as opposed to being just, you know, this period, that period, and enjoying them for being periods. It's much more a continuum, I suppose, of human endeavour, human action, and human life. So, Mr. W, thank you very much for your question. Hopefully I've given it some sort of answer. If anyone has any thoughts on sexy archaeology, feel free to comment below. So I keep on doing that. I just like doing it. Yeah. Can you see that? Yeah, just about. Yeah, that's better. So yes, if you have any comments, feel free to comment below, and any thoughts rather. And thank you very much once again for asking the question. If you have any questions of your own rather, feel free to send them in. And until next time, thank you very much for watching.